On the biggest stage in the world, FanDuel is changing the game because sometimes your player gets subbed off and your bet goes with them. Not anymore. With FanDuel Super Sub, if your player's subbed out, your bet stays in. That's right. If your player leaves the match, your bet continues on with the substitute. So you're still in it until the final whistle. Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.
21 plus select states for Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino. 18 plus DCKYWY. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 1-800-MY-RESET. 888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat. Connecticut. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Maryland. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org. Call 800-327-5050. Massachusetts. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Text HOPE-NY in New York. Call 877-770-7867. Louisiana.
Visit FanDuel.com. Get started now. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Good morning, Dr. Sky and Rob. Well, I would like to get your opinion on some of the challenges of having a space station on the moon. And the biggest challenge I see is getting enough material up to the moon to build a space station. And I'm thinking that the best way to do that would maybe be to go like they did in the old B movies. Mm-hmm. You know, the whole space craft lands on the moon, maybe with a trailer behind it with, as a mothership. And then I understand that the best part or the most favorable part of the moon would be the southern portion where there is ice there. And also, I want you to address the challenges of 250-degree temperatures in the day and 400-degree temperatures at night. And
yes, you know your stuff, Nick. You bring up some very good points. Rod, go ahead, please.
Well, yeah, so we've been looking at how to build a moon base since the 1950s when Project Horizon came out, and the more we look, the harder it gets, in a sense. We do have to move a lot of mass up there. There's talk of repurposing. So we used to have this thing called Lunar Gateway, you probably know about. It was going to be a moon-orbiting space station, much smaller than the ISS, but kind of similar in design, this modular space outpost that would be occupied for a month or so at a time. That's since been canceled, but they're looking at maybe trying to repurpose some of those modules to deliver down the lunar surface and piece together. Now, there is this difficulty of launching all that mass up there. There's also, however, the difficulty of once you've got these structures on the lunar surface, you've got to cover them with a couple of meters of lunar soil to protect the people living there from radiation. So that's a whole nother level. Yes. There is some talk, not a lot, but there is some crosstalk about, Starship is a really big single monolithic structure. If you could get one of those on the surface, which they're planning to do anyway for the human landing system, and slowly lower it on its side or land it on its side, you have this single pressurized volume that's about the same size as the entire International Space Station in just one Starship. So if you could launch and land 4 or 5 of those, you've got this, major housing structure on the moon.
Yes. Rod, you bring up something interesting here, and Nick actually brings us to this focal point. This is interesting, Nick. When you look at the Starship lunar lander, coming down, if it's a regular Starship, the long, skinny, like if you hold a pen and hold it in your hand on a table, pointing it straight up, my concern would be, and I think, Nick, you'd jump in on this, how the heck does that thing stay stable if we've had recent, privatized companies send these little space probes to the moon, and they wind up tipping over? And you just mentioned it, Rod. It would what? It would land vertically, and then the goal would be to remove it horizontally, I guess. That's a big feat to do, don't you think? Well, that's hard.
And you want to do it under your control, not having it tip because it landed with one of 4 landing legs in a crater. And this has been a big concern about this particular system design since it was selected a few years back, which is why a lot of people are putting their money on what Blue Origin is doing, which is a much more traditional lander design.
Exactly. Nick, you get the last word if you're still with us. Thanks for your call. You brought up some interesting points.
I understand there are overhangs and caverns that have temperatures in like the 60s. If you can get a craft underneath one of these overhangs or into one of these caverns, you wouldn't have to cover it with moon soil. You'd just be right in there. And I would like, maybe you can have it where you can crawl in and out. You got those 14-day days and 14-day nights.
Right.
And come out.
Yeah, you're right.
And would that be possible or a good idea?
Well, this is discussed quite a bit. I just came from a conference where we had a lot of discussion about lunar base sighting and items like this. And honestly, some of these caverns are quite large. There was one of them that was famously rated as being the size of Pittsburgh inside. They think they have to get down there to see. One way or the other, there's caverns and there's lava tubes. Lava tubes are a little iffy because there's a increasing body of evidence that the ceilings of them might be a little brittle. But there certainly are places into which you could go, and at that point you could have a robust inflatable structure, and you wouldn't need to necessarily move hard monolithic structures down there. You could have basically a huge pressurized moon tent. And as you say, you've got all this protection now with this rock overhang or this rock ceiling inside this cave from not just radiation, but from micrometeorite impacts as well. And so you don't necessarily need a metal rigid structure anymore.